Hello and welcome to Gut Shot, home of the hottest takes for Magic the Gathering. I'm Will, and joining me as always is Frederick.
Hello, everyone. I am Frederick, aka Warcrimes uWu on Twitch, and you are listening to Gut Shot, the Magic the Gathering podcast. That's a cheeky reference to another Magic the Gathering podcast you like.
Oh yeah, for sure. That seems to be the name of the game with Magic these days. I am willing to bet that this is like one of the more exciting episodes for either of us that we've done in a while. Would you say that?
I liked Fixing White.
Right.
That's been my favorite one in a little while. But this one was also, I think, going to be very fun. I like this set, despite it being $10 packs, which everybody I'm sure is giving their spiel. It's stupid for them to print new cards in $10 packs. It's ridiculous. It's anti-player. It takes unique game pieces and tells people that they're not for them, which should be only the case with cosmetic items. Done with that. Let's just be excited about cards.
Absolutely. Any long-term listener of Gut Shot, and I know there's like one of you out there, knows that we've said over and over that Modern is our favorite format, and we are finally getting Modern Horizons 2. We're not actually done with spoilers just yet, but we couldn't wait, and we knew that there were going to be tons and tons of cards that we wanted to pontificate about. So this is probably part one of our deep dive into Modern Horizons 2 and talking about which cards we are most excited for. And I know that both of us have a lot to say on this.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So let's not wait too long. Let's just get right into it. But before we do that, hey, we really appreciate you, tuning in, checking out our episodes. If you like this episode and you're watching on YouTube, give the video a like and subscribe for more of that juicy Gut Shot content. The bell is there if you'd like to click it, and more than anything, we want to hear what you have to say. If you agree with us, you think that we're we don't know what we're talking about, please let us know in the comments below, and you could tweet at us at GutShotPod. And with that out of the way, let's get into Modern Horizons 2. And I think I'm starting off with the first card, right?
You are, yes. That's the way I put it.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about Flame Tongue Yearling. Now, us long-term Magic players know that Flame Tongue means something in Magic, and we'll see this over and over again with all of these cards. Lots of references to old stuff from Magic's past, and this is no exception. This is a 2 mana for 2 red, a 2/1 creature Kavu with multi-kicker of 2 generic. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each time it was kicked, and when it enters the battlefield, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature. Obvious reference to classic card, which I don't think quite gets there these days, Flame Tongue Kavu, which was a 4 mana 4/2 and came into play and dealt 4 damage to target creature. I think that this is a really cool change, flavor, tweak to a classic card that is fun to play. I do not think that this is strong enough for Modern, but I think that this is going to be really awesome for the draft environment, and I think this is going to be a great like cube card or like cubelet. I'm kind of thinking about maybe putting this in my cubelet, and this just seems like a fun card to play with. What do you think about this?
I think this is pushing into maybe being playable in Modern. It's a 2-for-1. 2-for-1s are good. It can get a little bigger, but even just ignoring the multi-kicker, just a 2 mana 2/1 and shock is really, really nice. I think this will obviously be very good and limited, like you said, but I think this might see a tiny bit of Modern play. I don't know if like any mono red devotion deck is ever going to exist, or just like, I don't know, like Burn obviously doesn't want this, right? But like, I don't know, some Zoo deck I could see wanting this. This card's good. This is obviously a good card.
Yeah, it would be a deck that like is okay with the card at its base level. And, I don't think you want to be multi-kicking this if it's going to see constructive play. That just kind of needs to be gravy on top. But yeah, if there's any sort of Zoo deck that pops up, which, might be a possibility with the new cards, we'll just have to see. But yeah, the power level is there. We just need to see if it can slot into anything. But I just think on all fronts, this is just a great design. And I'm just glad it exists. And I'm looking forward to playing it in a more casual context. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my first pick. Let's move on to your next one, or your first one. And this is a powerhouse. Tell us about Grief.
So cards that will definitely see play in Modern. This is Grief. It's 2 and double black for a 3/2 elemental incarnation at Mythic with Menace, and when it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card, and evoke exile black card from your hand. So this is a pitch spell, right? It's Thoughtseize that just requires you to pitch a black card, or you can play it for 4 mana, get the 3/2 Menace, and do that. As many have pointed out, you can play this and then blink it in response to the evoke trigger, but I honestly just think the 0 mana Thoughtseize into regular Thoughtseize on turn 1 is what's going to allow this to help you pick apart most opponents' hands. This card is obviously strong. How strong it is a little up in the air. This is the second most expensive pre-ordering card currently, just behind Ragavan, the Monkey Pirate. And I mean, for very good reason. This card's probably going to shape Modern moving forward, a lot of people are saying, and I think I'm one of those people. Will, what are your thoughts on Grief?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can blink this. People are absolutely going to be doing that, and I think it's going to be good. But I love what you just said. This is basically Thoughtseize. Well, I guess Inquisition of Kozilek is Thoughtseize 5 through 8, right? This is Thoughtseize 9 through 12. Right? We know the power of that card, and just being able to rip your opponent's hand over and over and over again is we know how powerful that is. We don't need to be told that. So yeah, I think that this has the legs to get there. It definitely will, and you don't even need to break this. It's just that powerful on its own. And the 3/2 Menace is not nothing on the battlefield. Like, I know it's like here's my air quotes, below rate, but I mean it's still a Magic card. It still attacks and blocks and can win games. So yeah. I'm not surprised that this is like the second highest pre-order. I haven't seen what this is pre-ordering for, and I kind of don't want to, because I definitely don't plan on paying those prices. But yes, expect to see this card Modern moving forward. You were just going to see it. Rishadan Dockhand. This is a 1 mana for 1 blue, a 1/2 merfolk. That's the important part. It's a merfolk. It has Island Walk, which is being printed into Modern for some reason. Kind of interesting that we're going back to that well. But here's the thing that everyone's excited about. 1 generic mana and tap to tap target land. So a lot of people were wondering if Rishadan Port was going to be reprinted into Modern, and it looks like we're not getting that. Instead, we're getting it on a 1-drop Merfolk. And there's just something about the Merfolk deck that people get crazy for. And I get it. I've been an Infect fan, ever since I picked up the deck. But people who play Merfolk are super devoted to the deck, and every single one of them are excited for this. So I'm gonna paraphrase what I've heard other Merfolk players say, on YouTube and in person, that Merfolk's 1-drops have always kind of been a bit mediocre. I know there was like Curse Catcher that was seeing play like 10 years ago, and I think they play 1 or 2 others these days, but like I think that this kind of takes the cake in terms of 1-drop Merfolk that they want to play. So I think that this is a clearly a slot into those decks. I'm curious to see if this is going to see play in anything that isn't a Merfolk deck. I don't know, but at least, hey, if you're going to play Merfolk, this is probably something you're highly looking at.
Yeah, I will go ahead and paraphrase what I have heard Merfolk players say to me, which is, hey, please stop keying my car. In all seriousness, I think this card's bad. Honestly, I think like Rishadan Port, but that has Summoning Sickness and dies to removal, is just not Rishadan Port. The cool thing about Rishadan Port is they had to basically spend their Wasteland to get rid of it, or their Strip Mine, or whatever. They have to expend resources that aren't just like a 1-drop instant to get rid of it. And you could lay it down 1 turn and immediately start negating, or like taking out one of their lands from the game. Whereas that's just not true of this. It comes down, it often will get bolted before it can do anything, and even when it doesn't get bolted before it can do anything, like it still has to wait a turn. I don't know. I'm not feeling this.
You're right, and we should definitely say that this is not Rishadan Port.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I would say it doesn't even matter that it's not Rishadan Port. It's close enough to where people are going to do it anyway, whether it's good or not. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see if this is clearly going to go into Merfolk, but we'll have to see if this ability takes Merfolk to a new level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were right about it mostly just seeing play in Merfolk because I think the best thing about this card is it's a 1-mana 1/2 with an occasionally relevant ability that you can curve into a 2-drop that turns it into a 2/3. It's a curve ape.
You're right. That probably is where the real power of this card is. And I'll honestly say I don't hate that this is a Merfolk. I do think that Rishadan Port on a creature should be a white ability. I just think this is one of those things where blue shouldn't get this, white should get this, and blue should stick to what is more core to blue. I guess I can't fault them too much for making this blue, because if this was a Merfolk in white, I think people would probably complain a lot. Even though I think color pie philosophy wise, it really should be white.
Yeah. Now, Will, I think people will complain a lot no matter what this is. But yeah, I agree. I think this probably should have been white, even if they had to make it say tap target non-basic land. I think it probably still should have been white. Which that's what you're going to do with it anyway. Right. But are you ready for this next one?
Yeah, let's move on. Ooh, this is a spicy one.
Yeah, so this is the number one thing I thought you would pick, but apparently you are immune to the self-referential soy face bait in a way that I am not. Because I went ahead and put this on the slideshow. This is Ignoble Hierarch. It's a green for a 0/1 Goblin Shaman. At rare with Exalted, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it can tap to add a black, a red, or a green. So this is an obvious reference to Noble Hierarch, which was the exact same text, except it was a human shaman. And it tapped for a white, a blue, or a green. And this is very weird to me, mostly because, Exalted is not a Jund ability, but you have to remember that this is not a Jund card. It's just a green card that happens to be able to also tap for black and red. So, Exalted still technically is allowed to be on here, but it feels very strange. I wish that instead of Exalted, they had given it, I don't know, Battle Cry, or... Devour doesn't really make sense. I wish they'd given it a Jund keyword ability instead of making it literally Exalted. But for the decks that play Noble Hierarch anyway, but would like different colors, now Ignoble Hierarch exists. And Noble Hierarch's down to $15 right now, which is pretty great. So,
absolutely.
Maybe this is why. Yeah, I might be picking those up soon. But yeah, Ignoble Hierarch might go in Ponza for me. To be honest, I like the art on this one too. It's cute.
Yeah, and the art is just a reference to Noble Hierarch. It's still that straight on, almost like Wes Anderson shot from one of his movies, just looking straight on. Noble Hierarch is dressed nobly, has the flowing robes, very clearly noble-ish. While this one is exactly what you think of if you'd hear Goblin Shaman, right?
Yeah, New York Knicks cap, Limp Bizkit T-shirt.
I love this card so much. A lot of the kind of cheeky references that Modern Horizons 2 has in its cards don't really hit with me all that much. Like the card that has the really long name that no one can pronounce. That doesn't really get me like it's getting a lot of people. But this one really does. I love this card. I absolutely want to get a playset of this. Infect's not going to slot this in. I don't think Infect's going to become an 8 Hierarch deck. But there's a Golgari version of Infect that will absolutely slot this in instead of Noble Hierarch. It's possible we were talking about like a Zoo deck maybe being possible in Modern, like a Flame Tongue Yearling. This would be a good card if that deck was going to become a thing. And I think that Jund is going to alter its game plan to incorporate this.
Bold prediction.
A lot of people, again, this is like people who play Jund I'm hearing online saying that they think that Jund is going to be tweaked in response to this card. And because Jund is already in kind of a weird place. It's not the powerhouse it used to be. So they think that this card could give it a little bit more juice to compete with the more broken things that are happening in Modern. But I love this card. I want to get a playset. Maybe I'll toy around with like an 8 Hierarch Infect deck and try to prove the naysayers wrong. But yeah, I do really like this card.
Yeah, I honestly feel like Teamer is going to be the go-to color combination for mid-range, and the reason that is we'll get to when we talk about another card later on the list. But I think this or Noble Hierarch could see play there.
Sure, absolutely.
But yeah, this card's definitely powerful because it already exists and it's powerful there. It's just got a couple different colors with this one.
Do you think they're going to make a Naya Hierarch in the future, maybe in Modern Horizons 3?
You know, I was looking at these spoilers with my partner, and I think that would be a. She said the same thing, and I think that would be a really bad idea. I think like she asked if I thought they were going to do that, and I honestly don't. I think like with the second one, it's a cool callback to the original, but any after that are just kind of like, yeah, the well's running dry. You're running out of ideas, you know.
For sure. Yeah.
I honestly thought if they made a second one that it would be Abzan, but yeah, I guess it's Jund now.
Yep.
I just wish they'd given it something other than Exalted, something that feels more Jundy.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that being said, let's move on to mine. So my next card is Prismatic Ending. So this is a white sorcery. It's 1 white and then X, and it has Converge, which we haven't seen in a while. But exile target non-land permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of colors of mana spent to cast the spell. It is sorcery speed. We have to keep that in mind. I think that's really going to hurt the playability of this card.
Yeah.
But I have to say, if you are just looking for a catch-all spell that can remove anything, that's not non-land. So artifacts, enchantments, creatures, if you need to, planeswalkers. This is a go-to that you can keep in mind. And one thing that I want to highlight on this is that this actually does a really great job of dealing with Chalice of the Void on one. If you pay 1 non-white color for X, you can get around Chalice on 1.
That's true.
Right. So I just think this is something that everyone's going to have to keep in mind because just the versatility of this card is really there. It's really flexible. It hits a lot of stuff. So I would like to see where the sorcery speed is mitigated by just being such a catch-all answer. Do you see this seeing any serious competitive play?
I think if it was an instant, yeah, I do think the sorcery kind of kills it. I'm probably on that team. Although I'm willing to be proven wrong. You know, the Chalice of the Void thing I didn't consider. That's definitely true. Maybe if this could like also counter spells, nope, that would be very broken. Yeah, if it were an instant, I would be a lot higher on it. I could see this as a sideboard card in like junk decks, like Abzan type stuff, but probably not much else.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it was instant, this would automatically be one of the most powerful cards in Modern, I think, in terms of like answers. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be sorcery, but I just like this card. The art's cool with the guy kind of crashing through the stained glass. I just love the versatility of this card. And I think that's something that it's cool that White gets to do is have that kind of versatility. So just really well positioned for a possible sideboard play in Modern.
Yeah, I will say if this replaces Path to Exile, I'll be very excited because it can't kill Primeval Titan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, because it has to be. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to your next one then.
Gets rid of Siege Rhino though.
Yeah, that's true. Finally.
Yeah. So next we've got a card that might be a cheeky callback to my favorite card in the game, but that's fine. Verdant Command is 1 and a green for an instant. At rare, choose 2. Target player creates 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Counter target loyalty ability of a planeswalker. Exile target card from a graveyard. Target player gains 3 life. So right off the bat, you can see most of the time this is going to be raise the alarm and a bonus effect. And like countering a loyalty ability of a planeswalker is great. This can counter ults. You can like stop their Jace from brainstorming when they were really planning on doing that during that turn, and it can really mess them up. You can stop their Lily from like making you discard a card, and then like on the next turn hit it with the squirrels. Exile target card from a graveyard. You know, there's a really great Reanimator card we're actually going to be talking about later in the episode, and there's already decent Reanimator cards in Modern, and being able to just stop those and get 2 1/1s for 2 mana is excellent. And then the gain 3 life, I guess, is just what you do if you don't have any other 2-drop to play and you just want to make some squirrels on your opponent's end step, and you just gain the 3 life as well. So I think this card's much more versatile than it looks. I think this card's much better than it looks. I am excited to play. I think we've reached a critical mass of like commands. I want to play like an Abzan commands deck in Modern with this and Kaya's Guile and Dramoka's command and Primal command and just like sort of have all the options that I need every turn. I think that would be pretty sweet.
Oh yeah. I if you build that, I absolutely want to see it. I was really curious as to what you thought of this card because it does seem like you see the 2 mana and you think, oh great, 2 mana, anything for 2 mana is going to be good. But then you look at the list and a lot of it is situational. I was really curious to see what you were going to think about this, but I like that there's one that you're almost always going to want. You know, the 2/2 tapped tokens, like that's always going to be reasonably good. All of the others are very situational, but as we know, as we've learned throughout Magic's history, is having marginal effects you having the option for them and having other options really increases their value. Like counter target loyalty ability of a planeswalker, we wouldn't play that as a card, but it is kind of just free here if you ever need it. Target player gains 3 life. That's kind of the one that you kind of just always default to if there's nothing else you can do. But I mean, hey, that blinks a lightning bolt from burn. You know, exile a target card from a graveyard. Is it Uro still? Oh no, Uro's banned in Modern now. That's right.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Other things of that nature. Then you're right. You've sold me on this card. I think this is one of those things where it looks a little weak on the surface, but like once you see it in play, I bet this really does work.
This just gives you a lot of options. I'm determined to show people how good this card is, like I was with Kaya's Guile, and I think I was pretty correct about that with Modern Horizons 1.
You think you're going to try? Do you think you're going to try a few of these in a Mono Green Devotion for Modern?
Not Mono Green Devotion. I do not think that deck wants it at all. But I think any green deck that like actually wants to play at instant speed, I think a lot of like XX green sort of 3-color decks are going to want this for its versatility. I think of it as like Snapcaster kind of. Like the 2 squirrels are kind of like Snapcaster's body, and then whatever else you do with it is like a cheap spell.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that way of looking at this.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm desperate for like decent green cards because nothing from this set goes in Mono Green Devotion, obviously, so far, other than maybe some sideboard stuff. But I don't know. You've got this next card. This one looks spicy as hell. I misread this at first and thought it was way better than it is, but it's still good.
It's still a lot better than it looks. Void Mirror. This is a 2-mana artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no colored mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. And it's just an artifact that sits on the battlefield for 2 mana. So obviously, I mean, you see this card and the first thing that you think is, you know, wow, fuck Tron, right? And yes, it does fuck Tron. But, you know, Tron has the ability to, you know, run like green or red or whatever color and add colored mana into their spells to get around this. So, you know, it's not that... so there are ways of getting around it, but I think that the special sauce here is that it takes care of other types of spells. Any sort of free spell that where no mana is spent at all, like Force of Will, this is going to counter that. It just sits on the field. Anything that's free, anything that is no colored mana, you know, that kind of stuff. Storm cards, I believe that those will also be countered by this as well.
I actually thought that too. Unfortunately, this triggers when a player casts a spell, and Storm just copies the spell for each spell cast before it. So unfortunately, it doesn't work against Storm. I was really disappointed about that.
Do you not cast the copies?
Nope, it just copies the spell.
Okay, sure. Well, Storm's broken. Storm was a mistake anyway. Okay,
correct.
Fair enough. I would say with this card, just think about the non-Tron reasons to play this card. So there's a lot that's going on with this that isn't just taking care of Tron. So just think about that. And I do think that this is going to see some sideboard play because it's just, you know, those kind of free spell type situations this will take care of, and you won't even think about it. And, you know, it just happens.
Yeah, combos with Spell Queller.
Yeah, that's nice. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a million different little things that you'd forget about with this card until they're relevant. They can't Cascade off of Bloodbraid Elf. Other Cascade card that we're going to talk about later.
That's the one I forgot. I was thinking of Cascade when I sent this, when I sent my list to you. That's the other like free spell I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this card's going to be good. I think it'll be good in sideboards. I think some decks will play it in the main board. It'll be in the Karn board of those Tron lists. Yeah, I think this card's pretty solid.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
just important to remember that it doesn't work against Storm before you bring it in. I feel like that's going to happen a lot on day one of this set.
Yeah, don't be a rube like me. But yeah, let's move on to your next one. This one's surprising. Tell me what you're excited about for Abiding Grace.
This art is really pretty. Also, Soul Sisters is cool. My partner kind of liked this one and wanted me to put it on there, mostly for the art, but she also plays Soul Sisters. So 2 and a white for an enchantment, uncommon. At the beginning of your end step, choose one. You gain 1 life, or return target creature card with mana value 1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, like, the obvious thing here is, like, Soul Sisters, right? If you have in the Johnny's Pride made out, you just gain the life. Put a counter on it. It's not that bad. Or, your graveyard, if they're removing your stuff with bolts and pushes, then your graveyard is going to be full of Soul Sisters and maybe Serra Ascendants that get to just come back at the end of the turn for free if they don't get exiled. So if your opponent's removal is planning on getting rid of your 1-drops just by destroying them, like Bolt, Thoughtseize, Path to Exile, whatever. If that's how they're getting rid of your 1-drops, you're going to just keep bringing them back every single turn. And that includes Soul Sisters. Other potential things are any just low to the ground white deck that plays a lot of 1-drops might want this. There's the Demon from the most recent core set, or the Cultist from the most recent core set that's a 1-drop, but if you reanimate him, you immediately exile him and make a demon. I don't know. That could be a thing. I feel like there's a lot of ways to break this card. Getting to reanimate a 1-drop every turn is pretty strong. So this is for sure on my list.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. This does a really good Luris impression, and we know how powerful Luris is. It does almost the same thing. Of course, creature card 1, all that stuff. But you're bringing something back for free without paying for it every turn. There are also, as you said, there's so many ways to break this, and you just get to gain a life if there's absolutely nothing. So yeah, if you're playing a Soul Sisters, you get that trigger. It's also just, that'll add up over time if you're not doing anything. You're right. This is definitely a card that I glossed over at first, but yeah, this is if you get this going, there's a lot of power here. Any deck that wants Luris, I think, is going to at least want to look at this effect.
Yeah, you can also bring back Martyr of Sands every turn.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Yeah,
but
buddy.
Yeah, this card's pretty good. Speaking of buddy, tell us about this next card.
Oh, okay, yes. Storm is a mistake and shouldn't have happened. I'm throwing it out there. I know lots of people love it, but there are a lot of wrong people in Magic the Gathering. Modern Horizons 2 is the return of Storm, and we are getting Chatterstorm. 2 mana, 1 generic and a green. Sorcery, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, and then it has Storm. So it's exactly 1/2 of Empty the Warrens in a different color, which I don't actually think matters. This one being printed straight to the Pauper ban list.
Maybe, I don't know, Pyroclasm is legal in Pauper, and they have to wait this is a sorcery. It's obviously good, but bannable.
I'm willing to put down money that this will be banned in Pauper. The very next time something gets banned in Pauper. But also, this is Modern Horizons. We're looking at this as a modern card. There is a Storm deck, and I think having 2 mana off on your payoff spell, is definitely something. So it's not super broken in Modern in the sense that we already have something that's so close to this that this is just a marginal increase on what they already have. But hey, maybe that's enough,
Yeah, you do have to have Manamorpho's mana left over to cast this, but I don't think that's that difficult. So I think I agree with you. This might see some modern play. Look, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's true. The Storm decks are usually Izzet and this is green, which they have the ability to create green, but their lands as of right now are not naturally going to be able to create green. But that's an easy fix. That mana base can be tweaked quite easily. But what were you gonna say?
I'm happy for friend of the show Mark Rosewater that he gets to put all these squirrels into this set, but I just don't. I think they're a little cringe.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's
the
fair.
squirrel obsession that this set seems to have is a little bit we get it. It's funny that squirrels fight. Cool, I don't know.
Sure. No, I totally understand that. They have their fans, and I want fans of Magic to get what they want, right? Like lots of people like this. I don't want to criticize them too much. It doesn't hit with me because I think it's a little too, kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Isn't this funny?
Yeah,
Situation.
yeah.
That doesn't hit with me. But I want the people who want this to be able to get it. And honestly, I'll take a 1/1 green squirrel. I'll attack and block.
Yeah. So this card I think is one of the best cards in the set. The one that I'm about to talk about. It's called Persist. It's 1 and a black for a sorcery at rare. Return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. Like obviously it doesn't hit all the like big reanimator targets. Emrakul with Goryo's Vengeance, Gristlebrand, the Praetors. But like, or World Spineworm, because this is a sorcery and that shuffles itself back into your deck. But there are plenty of big, dangerous creatures that I would love to get out for 2 mana. Things like It That Betrays. Just any big guy with Annihilator is where my mind immediately jumps to. But there's a million different cool things that this can do. A million different random mythic worms from old sets, Archons. Tidespout Tyrant jumps to mind because Legacy already likes to reanimate that card. Things like the new Angel, a Sarah Sanctifier or whatever, the one that when it comes in you pick a card type and you and your permanents have protection from that card type.
Yep.
Just stuff like that. Like the list of things that you can get back with Persist is very large, and the list of things that you should not be able to get back on turn 2, but now can because of Persist is very large. So I think this card will be pretty good.
Oh, no, absolutely. I was just playing last night in casual historic on Arena, and I was playing a deck that was using Unburial Rites to basically it was filling its graveyard. It used Unburial Rites to bring back Scholar of the Trove, which basically lets you cast a spell from your graveyard for free to chain ultimatums, or emergent ultimatum to copy the Scholar of the Trove and like continue to like cycle emergent ultimatums, and it was gross. 2 mana recursion from the graveyard we know is powerful. We have tournament pedigree that proves that that's something that we want. Non-legendary does kill it quite a bit, but I don't think it's that bad. There's lots of non-legendary creature stuff that you can get that is super, super scary. And, it's another one of those things where it doesn't matter if it's super, super powerful. People are going to do it anyway. So like those degenerates out there are going to play this card to reanimate anything they can, and so you're going to see this in Modern, regardless of whether it's super good or not. So I don't think that this is like super broken. I think it's probably the exact power level where it needs to be. So I'm not super scared of this card in Modern, but we will absolutely see people try to make this work. And I do like how it is a card named after an effect, and it kind of mirrors that effect pretty closely. I think that that's clever how they did that.
Yeah, Sundering Titan. But yeah, like other than that, I do think this is a cool flavorfully. I think it's very powerful. I think it should probably be more expensive based on what it's like pre-ordering for. So I might swipe up the playset now. I know we don't have the price spiking power that like the Command Zone does, but I don't know. Everybody get your Persists.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is a card you probably just want to hang on to 4 copies of, just so you have them when you need them, when you feel like doing something degenerate with your graveyard.
Yeah, I guess Faithless Looting being gone makes this card worse too. Because you can't, like, turn 1 loot the creature you want to get rid of and then turn 2 reanimate it. Yeah, maybe I'm not as high on this card as I was.
I think it's still there. We'll see this play.
Yeah. So you got this next card. This goes in the new to Modern but not a new card slot in the pack.
Oh, yeah. So this another classic card from Magic's history that I love this card. I've played this card a lot back in the day. Not sure where its place in Modern is going to be, but Mishras Factory is coming to Modern. So this is a land. it taps for colorless. You can pay 1 generic mana to make this creature become a 2/2 assembly worker artifact creature until end of turn. It's still a land, and then you can tap it to give target assembly worker creature, which is basically your other Mishras Factories, plus a few random cards from Magic's history. Gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and also Mutavault. If you're playing this with Mutavault, that'll work for Mutavault as well. Classic card. I don't know if this gets there against Mutavault. I think that the synergies, it's basically, do you want creature synergies or do you want artifact synergies? Is kind of where you're going to decide whether you want to play Mishras Factory or Mutavault. This card has a warm place in my heart, and I want to see it get there. But we'll just have to see where that lies. But we know that artifact strategies in Modern are can be very powerful. Affinity is not really a deck these days. But if it ever comes back in any sort of capacity and needs random artifacts, this would be something they'd want to look at. And I hope that this finds a niche place within the format.
Yeah, I think any decks that, I don't know about the other decks that play Mutavault, but I know 8-Rack is going to replace Mutavault with this, just because you can, if you have multiple ones out, you can tap them to give each other a bonus, and it blocks as a 3/3 because you can block with it and then tap itself to give it +1/+1 until end of turn, targeting itself. So there's a lot of cases where this is better than Mutavault. Like, if you don't care about the all creature types, this is strictly better than Mutavault, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that this is probably going to be cheaper than Mutavault. Now, this card, I think, spiked recently, so it's not like super, super cheap. But like, I'm pretty sure that these, as of right now, before the announcement that this was going into Modern, I'm pretty sure that Mishras Factories were quite a bit cheaper than Mutavaults, just as a baseline. So maybe it's like and it's also it's an uncommon in a set that's going to be cracked as much as possible for those fetch lands. It's possible that this could just be your budget Mutavaults if you're just working up towards a deck that wants Mutavaults. So something to keep in mind.
It's currently 15 cents.
Nice.
Not super hard to get. I think if you care, like, obviously Merfolk plays Mutavault because the Mutavaults need to be Merfolk, so you play Mutavault. But I think 8-Rack would just rather have this.
Sure.
And probably several other decks. So card's obviously very good. Fine for Modern, though. Not busted.
Yeah, pretty sure this is the original man land, right? Creature land. Was there one before this, before Antiquities? I think this is the first one.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, so just call me daddy.
Unless the Treetop Village and stuff was before Antiquities.
I don't think it was. But Here's another powerhouse card in the vein of Grief. You tell us about why you picked Solitude.
Yeah, so this is the other one of that. We haven't seen the red one yet still for some reason, unless we're just not getting a red one. But of the cycle of these like evoke pitch cards, I think this is the other one that will definitely see Modern play. This is 3 and double white for a 3/2 elemental incarnation at Mythic with Flash, Lifelink, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Evoke, exile a white card from your hand. Mm-hmm. So this is both, like, Swords to Plowshares is a powerful card. This retains the instant speed by virtue of having Flash. It's 0 mana. It's in the same colors as like Ephemerate, so you can just blink it. Mm-hmm. As soon as it comes in. And then the big thing to me also is like this shares a color with Squadron Hawk. So you can play Squadron Hawk, get 3 more, and then use them to cast Solitudes for free. So yeah, I think like that's a bit more of a corner case maybe, but like my partner has like this green-white blink deck that she's used to pretty great success. Basically, it plays Aether Vial, plays Flicker Wisp, it plays like Charming Prince, and then just all the best creatures you might want to blink. Thraben Inspector's the 1-drop. You play Thragtusk at the top end, Restoration Angel, stuff like that. And I think Solitude will immediately have a place in that deck because you can evoke it and then Vial on 2 to put a Charming Prince in, blink it, get rid of another creature, and get to keep the body. I think this card has a lot of cases where it's very good. I obviously don't think it's as good as Grief, but I think it'll definitely see some Modern play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this one it's just straight Swords to Plowshares. I love that it's just the classic card in one line of text. Yeah, this is another one, like you were saying before. you don't have to cheat this out with Invoke and like do crazy things like a Ephemerate or stuff like that. This is just a great card on its own with a flash lifelink, comes in, blanks a creature. You could just play this as a good Magic card, and then it's like there's a fail safe for those times when you're playing something like Infect or something where you just need to get rid of this thing right now. I think this card is actually really bad news for the Infect deck. And I don't mean to keep talking about Infect during this. It's my Modern deck.
No, it's fine.
The existence of this card really makes me think twice about whether I want to be playing Infect in the future.
Infect is down bad, huh?
Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out something else. But at least I got my Goblin Guides for real cheap last year with Double Masters, so maybe I can pivot into my other love, which is Red Aggression. Yeah. I mean, again, this is. I don't think this is. I think this is maybe just a tiny step down from the power level of Grief, but it's right up there. This is going to see play. I think this is going to be a shaper of the Modern format moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. So speaking of shapers of the Modern format, this card worries me. Tell me about this one.
Quirion Ranger. So this is a reprint. This is new to Modern, and I got, be careful of who you call ugly in middle school, for sure.
Yeah.
We know how powerful this card. It's a staple card in Legacy Elves, and now Modern Elves gets it. I think that's all that really needs to be said. This is automatically slotting into Elves and taking Elves a power level up from where it is now. And I also think this is going to be the very first foil printing of this card. So if you pull any foils of this, and it is a uncommon, so keep that in mind. If you pull any foils of this, you probably hit the lottery.
Yeah, there was a promo of this that was ridiculously expensive that was foil, but this is the first foil that might be affordable to people who aren't Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm very worried about this card really, I worry every time they do something like this that they're trying to make Modern into Legacy Light, and this card is the one that made that anxiety the most pronounced for me. Because I think this card really was the dividing line between Modern and Legacy Elves. Because, what else does Legacy Elves have that Modern doesn't,
Yeah, you're right.
Priest of Titania, I guess. That seems like it.
Yeah, Gaia's Cradle.
That's true. There you go. Okay, there you go. My
bad. No. I mean, that's there, but it is marginal. This is just one more card that breaks that barrier. So yeah, I mean, sure. Honestly, I'm not an Elves player. It's not a deck I'm interested in getting, but I am very afraid to see how powerful this deck will be after this printing. So
yeah,
I think that's all that really needs to be said. We know how powerful this card is.
Yeah, this card's good. Okay.
Here's another card. We know how powerful this card is. It seems to be in French here for some reason. Why don't you tell us about your next pick?
Yeah, I decided to go. There was no English picture of this from the new set because it had just recently gotten spoiled when I made the slideshow. So I just went with. I decided a different language was better than just using an old printing. Yeah. This is Shardless Agent. 1 a green and a blue for a 2/2. Human rogue artifact creature with Cascade. That's it. That's the only text on there, and it's good text, folks. This card is very strong. It's fallen out of favor a bit in Legacy, but this card makes me think that Teamer will be the mid-range colors of choice in Modern. Because you have this, you have Bloodbraid Elf, and you can Bloodbraid into whatever the hell you want. The deck's going to play Ancestral Visions, of course. And it's going to probably just play all the best 1 and 2 drop green and red and blue creatures. And your opponent's just going to have to deal with it. I think this card's great. I think it's very strong. You could all of the obviously good Cascade plays. You can Jace the Mind Sculptor and then cast this and Cascade into something you want specifically. There's just so much good stuff you can do with this card. This card's very obviously good. I'm going to be getting a playset as quick as possible. This card's really strong.
It's like we just said, there are those dividing lines between Legacy and Modern, and the printing of Shardless Agent into Modern is breaking one of those major barriers. It was, Shardless Agent, has a deck named after itself in Legacy, which is a pretty big honor. And
Yeah.
for that to now just be in Modern, it's another one of those, well, Modern is just now Legacy. So yeah, this is good. You know, if you feel like you want to play decks like this, or decks like Shardless Bug, or, you know, whatever the Legacy deck is, if you feel attached to those, get these, because this is absolutely going to be a role player in Modern. And I love your idea for like a team, or kind of like a beatdown. If you build that deck, I absolutely want to see it.
I do want to build that deck. I want to make sure it's not going to be too expensive for me to build.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
Well, hey,
yeah.
with the enemy fetches getting reprinted, nothing is impossible. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, big props to us for having the fortitude and the iron will to not put fetch lands on our list today.
Oh yeah.
But hey,
I just figured we were only talking about cards that were new to Modern, but
well, we got lots to talk about anyways, and we have a whole nother episode we're going to be doing on this. So, well, I'm going to move on. This is not a Modern card, but I just love this, and I got to talk about it.
Hang on.
Oh yes,
I gotta say, I called you putting this on your list. Like,
okay.
It's usually really hard to figure out what you're going to say other than, like, Infect and Burn cards. But I know you're a sucker for Mirrodin lore, and I was just immediately like, yep, Will is going to talk about this card. I don't even need to think about putting it down on my list. Yes. Go ahead.
This is a self-indulgent pick for me. I started in original Mirrodin, you know, a big soft spot for those cards, and I was absolutely one of those people who were soy facing over the cool Cauldra equipment. I still have my very first pre-release was Fifth Dawn, and the promo you got was the Helm of Cauldra, and I was just going through my cards last night. I came across it. That is my very first promo that I've ever gotten. You know, really soft place in my heart. But we are getting new Cauldra stuff. This is Cauldra Complete, a 7-mana legendary artifact equipment. It's mythic. It has Living Weapon, and I think there's a few of these in the set that we've seen so far. But Living Weapon is coming back. The entire thing is indestructible, and then equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, Haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. So it's not as good as I think it's not as good as Death Touch, because you have to do the full damage. You can't just do 1 damage and then move on to something else. But it does exile, so it's, you know, kind of like a side grade. And then equip for 7. That's a lot of mana. I have the inkling that people playing this will not actually be paying an equip cost of 7 all that much. But yeah, this is just like like we talked about with the squirrels. You know, the squirrels are, lots of people like the squirrels, but, you know, like we're kind of like it's a little too tongue-in-cheek. We don't really like that. But this is one of those things where it's like, this is what I want, and I would want people to be I would want people to be like, well, I don't like this, but I'm glad that Will Rhetoric is like super excited for this card. I guess like Stoneforge Mystic is kind of the way you want to go with this. You know, kind of those like white base kind of cheating out artifacts is how you want to do this. I'll probably try to put this in like Duretti, like my Oathbreaker / Commander deck for him, just because I love it so much, and I'm just excited to see what I can do with this card.
Yeah, I honestly think this might see a play as a one of in decks that play Stoneforge. Like that ability is really strong. Just the just being able to put it in like a Batter Skull, and then the card itself being indestructible. I think I wouldn't sleep on this in Modern immediately. Potentially Tron, maybe. Yeah. It has haste, so like I don't know. I wouldn't count it out just yet. It's definitely not the best thing you can be doing for 7 mana, but you're not always going to be paying 7 mana for it.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, if you just get Natural Tron on 3 and you drop this down, you're swinging for 5 First Strike, Trample, Indestructible on turn 3. A lot of decks are going to have a real hard time dealing with that.
Yeah,
on turn
sure.
3. Yeah. So anyway, there are applications for it, and I'm excited to see what happens with it. But I just had to talk about it. I just love it so much. But let's move on to your. Oh, I actually haven't seen this card yet. So tell us about your deck card.
Yeah, this is Thought Monitor. It's 6 and a blue for a 2/2 artifact creature construct at rare with affinity for artifacts, flying, and when Thought Monitor enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. I think you can get this down to 1 mana in Modern Affinity, and it's just gonna like let you keep going. This is kind of like Vault Scourge. This is a pretty good thing to slap Cranial Plating on,
Yep.
and it'll help you draw into the Cranial Plating if you don't have it yet. I don't think it'll be too unreasonable to cast this for 2 mana. And a 2 mana 2/2 flyer that draws 2 cards is, I don't need to tell you, very good. So I think this card will see some play in Modern Affinity for sure. What do you think about this?
Oh yeah, now that I'm reading this, I love this. Affinity for artifacts, we know how powerful that is,
Yeah.
and we know, and modern is like the format for like just chaining cheap artifacts as much as possible. The old style affinity decks, I definitely think would want that, but those decks don't really exist anymore. But I know there's like Urza decks that would kind of do sort of the same thing. But this would have been absolutely gross if Arkham's Astrolabe was still around, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if the Urza decks are doing too hot now that Mox Opal is gone. But maybe this will bring him back. I don't know if this will bring him back. I think Affinity. I honestly do think that the aggressive artifact Affinity that exists now in Modern kind of wants this.
This is really cool. The power is there, and I have no doubt that there are decks that can get this down to 1-2 mana very easily and want this in play. I guess we have to see whether those decks can stack up against the meta, but there are absolutely decks that can really put this to use and get just incredible value out of it. So yeah, so I love this. It's really cool to see Affinity for artifacts coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a neat mechanic. We saw one more Affinity card in the set, but it was not very good.
Sure.
But speaking of good artifacts, you got this next one. This art's really cool.
Oh yeah, it's real cool. I think they did a great job with this. I had to have another content creator mention that this was a human before I realized that this wasn't just an artifact creature.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay. So this is Esper Sentinel. It's 1 white mana for a 1/1. It's an artifact creature, human soldier. That's quite the type line there. Artifact creature, it's a human, and lots of things care about humans, and it's a soldier. That's a great line of text right there. But there's even more power to this. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. So it's doing a real, almost like a Ristic Studies impersonation here. So you get that ability, and people are absolutely going to have to, with Modern being as mana lean as it is, unless decks are trying to ramp, they're not really gonna have all that much extra mana to pay
this tax,
to pay the tax, and all of that on just a 1 mana creature with a great line of like a creature type text. This is one of those things where the entire package all just comes together into a really great, more powerful than it looks card, and I really do think that this is going to see play.
Yeah, I did not know it was a human until you mentioned that live, and this card looks so much better now. Just like Thraben Inspector immediately raises the tax to 2, or not Thraben Inspector, Thalia's Lieutenant, and then just curving this into Thalia is really nasty.
Yep.
Because she increases the actual cost of the spell by 1, and then they have to pay 1 to make you not draw a card. They're not going to be able to do both of those things on a lightning bolt, right? Yep. The lightning bolt's going to be too expensive. Either they can't cast it, or you're going to get to draw a card when they do.
Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly where this. I mean, this will slot into a lot of places, but I don't know where the real home of this deck this is going to be. I would guess probably a humans build is where this would naturally go. But like artifact decks are going to want to play this too, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're trying to get affinity for artifacts for your thought. What's it called? Thought
Monitor.
Thought Monitor. Yeah, if you're trying to get that down for affinity artifacts, this is something you're really gonna want. If you're just trying to have a ton of artifacts, this is something you want. There's just lots of power here that can go a lot of different ways.
Another thing I just thought of: slap cranial plating on this bad boy.
Yeah,
it's not just the power bonus from +1/+1 counters, and there's a lot of modular cards in the set. They're not great, but like when you sack your Arcbound Ravager, just put the counters on this, and you're gonna get to draw a card.
That's very, very good. Yeah. So yeah, not much to say about this. Look for this card. Look where its home's going to be. But let's move on to your next card, Urzas Saga. Now, is this the card or the set? Which one are you talking about here?
Yeah, so this is actually $15,000. I don't know why it's referred to as a booster box when I looked it up, but yeah, this is Urzas Saga. It's named after a set, kind of like how we got Mirrored and Besieged in the last set. I think my money for the next set, maybe we'll get Fate Reforged. Maybe we'll get Jumpstart. I don't know. This card's good. I can't wait for the most powerful card in Magic. Core Set 2015.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Urzas Saga is a enchantment land. Urzas Saga. So
that's good.
Really getting all the Urzas doesn't matter. That's a subtype that has nothing that cares about it, but they just really wanted to like make it look good. So the first lore counter, Urzas Saga gains tap, add a colorless, and that's not temporary. That exists for the next 2 turns too.
So it's just a land that taps for colorless, just just coming in. That's the baseline.
Yeah, and then the second turn, Urzas Saga gains 2 tap, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So that's pretty good. You know, if you don't have anything better to do on turn 3 and you play this on turn 2, you can just poop out a construct. Who doesn't like constructs? And then turn.
We've seen the 0/0 construct that grows be good in other contexts. Like the Dominaria Karn makes those, and that ended up being a pretty good card. I don't think it made the jump to modern, but like we've seen those constructs be relevant, especially in a format that can pump out tons of artifacts. And we just talked about cards that care about you having a bunch of artifacts. So yeah, so that's not nothing. It's not free, but like that construct can be trouble for you.
Yeah, straight up. This card's pretty good. The last mode, search your library for an artifact card with mana cost 0 or 1, put it into the battlefield, and then shuffle. That's pretty nasty. There's not a lot of Moxes in Modern. There's obviously no Soul Ring. Like, this card's obviously a house in Commander. You don't need anyone to tell you that, because it's going to turn into a Soul Ring. But, like, in Modern, the best things you can probably be grabbing with this are, like, Shadow Spear from Theros Beyond Death might see a little play because of this. You can grab... God, are there any 1-mana things that tap for mana in Modern that I'm not thinking of? Maybe a Mana Rock with Suspend or something?
I bet there's a lot of artifacts that are kind of marginal now that will go up, not monetary value, but will go up in playable value because of this.
Pithing Needle?
Pithing Needle's great here. It's great for those kind of situational sideboard cards. Grafdigger's Cage. Or something like that. So there's nothing that's just going to break it. There's no Black Lotus or anything like that. But there's a lot of 0 and 1 mana cards that are situational that you're going to love to be able to tutor up piecemeal whenever you need them. And you'll also probably, if you really want to, because you do have to sacrifice this at the end of 3, I'm sure that there are a handful of marginal 0 and 1 mana rocks that you can just get and just to kind of keep things going, Yeah,
you can grab Esper Sentinel off of this too.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I don't think you can. The mana cost.
It's mana cost, not converted. Yeah.
Yeah, mana value. It's mana cost, not mana value. So you can't do that. There's all sorts of things you can get, and honestly, the ability to tutor, so you get the choice, is worth a lot. Make sure you remember that that's part of this too.
For sure. Yeah, this card's great. I'm curious where it's going to see play other than like Tron and stuff.
That's true.
So you got the next one, and this is not a family-friendly card.
Oh no. Okay. This is another one that I do like the flavor of this one. And I think that this is, I won't say it's pushed, but I mean, this is getting up there in terms of power level of cards. This is Damn. They got to the point where they're finally willing to burn the name Damn on a card. Just have that name and that just be this card forever in Magic's history. And I think that they chose a good way to do it. 2 mana, 2 black. It's a sorcery. Destroy target creature. a creature destroyed this way can't be regenerated. Now that sounds a little weird, right? The wording of that, well, it's that way for a reason. This has overload of 2 white. So it's worded that way. So with overload, this does literally just become Wrath of God. On an overload creature, Fred, I want to ask you, do you think that this is a strict upgrade to Wrath of God in Modern? Would anyone play Wrath of God instead of just this?
If this gets Inquisitioned, that's the only thing I can think of, but I think it's worth it. I think you play this even though it gets Inquisitioned, because it is just better than Wrath of God. I guess if you're in a mono-white deck that wants Wrath of God, for some reason you just play Wrath of God because you don't want it to get Inquisitioned. But if you're in a black-white deck, yeah, you play this over Damnation, Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, all that stuff. This card's just strictly better. I am a little disappointed that they skipped past To Pimp a Butterfly and just went straight to printing Damn. We don't get a Section 80, we don't get anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely like the most straight... This is just a straight-up curse word as a name of a Magic card. Let me ask you, Will, do you think in Modern Horizons 3 we'll get shit or fuck?
No, I don't think so. Maybe we'll just get ass, and it'll be it'll be like one city of ass just for a turn, but then you could overload it or whatever it is and like kick it, and if you kick it, it comes into play a city of ass or something like that.
Or hell maybe.
Right, for sure.
We could get a card that's just called hell. But yeah, this card's good.
But that's part of the conversation that's happening in Magic these days is Magic burning through too many card names? Like how many just like awesome, like one word, very like pithy, iconic words are we burning on just draft chaff for sets that no one cares about? Like if we're going to have a card that has such a just a like murder, they really found the perfect place to put the word murder on a 3 mana, totally reprintable everywhere, destroy target creature. Like that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
I think that this is probably the absolute best word, or the best card they could have used this one singular word for. And I'm glad to hear that Magic or Wizards is thinking about where they want to put these very like kind of just singular, like very pithy card names on cards.
Yeah, they didn't waste it like they did with Lightning Bolt. I think that this card is excellent. If they're going to name a card Damn, I don't want it to be like a common that just like is like a 5 mana destroy target creature. That's a really good point. To your thing about them burning through names too fast, I really don't think that's the case. They're good at making up new names. Just combine a Latin prefix and a Latin suffix that don't actually have a real word together to make a cool new spell. They do that several times a set, and I think like if Magic is getting to the point where they're literally running out of names for cards, then that's a good problem to have. It means your game is doing well.
Sure.
And it to have been going on that long. But I don't think they're at that point yet. I think that's a little bit of like manufactured worry. Although I do agree that like they don't need to burn cool names on bad cards, and I'm glad that Damn got this card.
All that aside, this is just a really good card, I mean, I don't know whether any decks specifically want this, but the power level is there. If a deck wants to pivot to having this ability, it's right here, and it's at the power level that I think is appropriate for Modern, and it kind of has that versatility, both in the sense of you can get one creature and all creatures if you need to, but the actual just Damn part of it is just destroy target creature. Like qualifiers, non-legendary, non-black or anything. It's just destroy target creature. I think that versatility is worth a lot too.
Yeah, I thought in this set they were going to finally make good on the, because like Doomblade is non-black. Victim of the Night lists a bunch of creatures it can't be. I thought they were going to finally pull the trigger in this set and give us an instant speed, 1 and a black. Either just destroy target creature or like destroy target non-Lurgoyf creature or non-advisor creature or something like that.
Yeah.
To where it was like barely relevant. But I'm glad they haven't hit that point yet, and I think Damn is a really cool card.
Yeah, for sure. Is there one more card? Yes, you have one more card. I think this is the last one for our episode here. But yes, we are finally getting a new sword. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, this is Sword of Hearth and Home. 3 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and white. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own, then search your library for a basic land card. Put both cards onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle. And it has equipped too. So that's very interesting phrasing for the ability. But yeah, basically when you hit somebody, you get to blink a creature and put a basic land card from your deck into play. when you're evaluating a sword like this, you need to decide how relevant is the protection from those two colors, and how relevant is the ability. And I think the ability is great. If you grab this off of Stoneforge Mystic, it lets you blink Stoneforge Mystic when you actually hit someone with it, and then grab another equipment, so it's kind of free in a way. The ramping out of basic land is really relevant, especially if you are going to have a bunch of equipments out on the battlefield late in the game. You need to equip them all to creatures, and then when that creature dies, equip them to a new one. It's really, that ramp is really relevant, even in decks that might only like cap at like 4 or 5 lands. And the protection is pretty relevant. It protects from Path to Exile and the new Solitude, and it can't be blocked by green creatures, which is less relevant than protecting from Path. But yeah, I think this card's great. I think as far as where it ranks under the swords, it's definitely not as good as Feast and Famine or Light and Shadow, but I think it's probably better than the rest, right?
I think Fire and Ice is still kind of up there in terms of power level, but those are the 3, right? The 2 original ones, and then Feast of Famine. You're absolutely right. This is not at that power level, but it's still pretty good. I love the name. I think they chose a great name for this one. Yeah, if you need these specific protections, the abilities are not nothing. I mean, if you're playing swords in Modern, you're absolutely playing a Stoneforge, so that's a great target for the exiling a creature right there. And ramping, I'm sure there's something you could do with all that extra mana, maybe ramp up into Cauldra Complete, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that this is it's good that this exists, and I think that decks that want to play swords will be glad to have like one of this to keep to tutor for when they need it. So I think is it's an appropriate power level. I think they did a good job with this card, but like we can say that and also know that this is not on the same power level as Feast and Famine, right?
I think they'll definitely play. This card will definitely see play. I honestly feel like it's about the power level of Sophie. To be real with you, but maybe I think
that's. No, I think with the power level of creatures that you can blink these days, I think you're right. I think that's probably where I would put it. Maybe right there, or just a tiny bit lower than Sword of Fire and Ice. But the power level is there.
Yeah, you can blink Solitude. You can blink Grief.
Ooh, you can blink a wrench. you can blink a sword. You can blink a wrench. You can blink a ball. Something. Okay.
Yeah, but now with that, we're only missing 2 more swords. We just need the green-red one and the blue-black one, and then we will have swords for all. And then I guess they'll start doing tricolor swords, maybe.
Maybe. With the way we're churning through new cards these days, I think we'll get the new swords sooner rather than later. So keep an eye out for that. And with that, I think that is all we're going to talk about today. Man, there is so much going on in Modern Horizons 2 that I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing a part 2 of this. I know that there are more cards that I want to talk about, and we didn't even talk about the fetch lands. There are more of the invocations that you can invoke, or that we can talk about. There's all sorts of this and that artifact stuff, modular. So be on the lookout for a part 2 for this, and I know that I'm super excited about it.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. This set has me really excited. Despite my anger at the $10 packs, which is justified, they really shouldn't do that. This set's really exciting.
Sure. Yeah. So with that said, why don't we wrap this one up? Do you want to sign us off, Fred?
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gut Shot. You can follow me at War Crimes uWu on Twitch, or at FredAskB on Twitter. Will is at Rhetoric, and you can follow the show on Twitter at GutShotPod. Tell us what cards that you are excited about from Modern Horizons 2. Unless that card is Quirion Ranger, then go ahead and keep it to yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you're one of those degenerates that's playing elves, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, take it easy.
Okay. Anyway, this has been Gut Shot, now at $13.99 a pack, and we will see you next time. Later.
See ya.